Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for August 3rd of 2023, and currently we have three main regions for severe weather development for today, but mainly we have an enhanced risk for the Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado region, as well as a slight risk around that, and a marginal threat that does connect to a slight risk for northern Alabama and southern Tennessee, as well as a slight risk for parts of northern New York into Canada, with a marginal threat around that does go into Vermont and eastern Michigan. I will touch on all of these in today's forecast. However, I may focus on this mainly for today's forecast, but I definitely will touch on all of these for all our different parameters. As for our threats for today, we do have two 2% tornado threats for the slight risk up north, as well as the slight risk further down south. Two very small 2% tornado threats. As for our wind threat, we do have a 30% with the hatch significant region for the possibility of destructive outflow gusts for the enhanced threat in Kansas, Nebraska, and Colorado, as well as a 15 for both slight risk regions. As for our hail potential, we do have a 15% for that enhanced risk region with a 5% around that, but we don't really have all that much of a hail potential for the slight risk in the Dixie states. And then as for the northern slight risk region, you can see that we do have a 5% hail threat for the entire marginal threat, including that slight risk region. Taking a look at our Radar Omega NAM 3-kilometer CONUS models, yes, I will be using Radar Omega for our weather models now, and I will not be using Pivotal Weather until I find something that I don't like about Radar Omega, and some maybe switch back to Pivotal Weather. But from here on out into the foreseeable future, I will be using Radar Omega for our weather models in place of Pivotal Weather from here on out. As you can see, it does give us an overlay of our SPC outlooks, and I can switch between our wind, hail, and tornado threats, as well as our excessive rainfall outlooks, but I will be mainly looking at our SPC outlooks as an overlay with our different parameters. So starting off with our 500 millibars, you can see focusing on the enhanced risk region and the slight risk region for northern Alabama into southern Tennessee, you can see that we do have a very weak jet stream across the region that is going to allow for the possibility of some elongated hodographs, as well as overall aid in triggering severe weather development across that region. This is fairly weak, so it will only really slightly elongate our hodographs, and it won't really elongate them enough to allow for the possibility of large hail. Our threat mainly stands for the possibility of medium to small hail. And then taking a look at the slight risk region for the New York region, you can see that we do have some fairly strong mid-level flow across the region as well. We do have a slightly stronger mid-level flow across the region, with mid-level flow that is expected to be in the 40 knots to 30 knots, opposed from 30 to 20 knots further down south. This is going to be the main aiding triggering factor in severe weather development across this region, as well as allow for the possibility of some elongated hodographs and the possibility of some small hail. Taking a look at our dew points, starting off with the enhanced risk region and the slight risk region for northern Alabama and southern Tennessee, you can see that we are expected to have dew points that do reach the 70s, as well as the possibility of maybe even into the mid 70s, as well as the upper 60s across the enhanced risk region. This is going to definitely allow for the possibility of some fairly strong instability across this region, possibly getting up to the 3000s. And then for the slight risk region for southern Tennessee and northern Alabama, you can see that we do have dew points that are expected to reach the 70s as well. More so the widespread 70s, and we don't really see all that much in the 60s. So we could see some fairly strong instability here as well, possibly getting up to the 3000s as well. And then taking a look at the slight risk region for the New York area, you can see that we do have dew points that are expected to reach the 60s and possibly even the low 70s, but more so the upper and mid 60s and possibly the upper 50s as well. So we could see some weaker instability across this region, more so back in the 1000s to 2000s range, maybe getting into the upper 2000s range. Taking a look at our instability, starting off with an enhanced risk region in the slight risk region that is connected by a marginal threat, you can see that we do have some fairly strong CAPE values that are expected to be in the region. We do have CAPE values that are expected to be up to the 3000s, as well as the upper 2000s and 1000s range for the enhanced risk region. And then across the slight risk region, you can see that we do have CAPE values that are expected to be mostly in the 1000s to 2000s range, and getting into the 3000s just a little bit. And then for the slight risk region across the New York region, you can see that we do have CAPE values that are expected to be in the 1000s to 2000s range. This is going to allow for the possibility across every location for the possibility of some damaging winds, and more so destructive winds for the enhanced risk region, And with strong mid-level flow aloft and the possibility of elongated photographs across the enhanced risk region and slight risk region for New York, we can see the possibility of some small to medium hail. And if we do have some strong storm relative helicity for the 2% tornado threat regions, we could see the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes. Taking a look at our energy helicity index, this is going to be something new that I take a look at, and I will be dropping storm relative helicity in our daily forecast from now on. What energy helicity index does is it combines our instability and our storm relative helicity to give us the best idea of where a tornado might be possible with our instability and our storm relative helicity. So taking a look at both 2% tornado threats, you can see starting off with a northern Alabama and southern Tennessee one. You can see that there is going to be some weak but definitely sufficient energy helicity index readings, mostly in the 2s and 1s. However, this is going to be sufficient for a 2% tornado threat across this region and allow for the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes. And then back towards the northern New England region in northern New York, you can see that we do have some fairly weak but definitely sufficient energy helicity index readings across the 2% tornado threat area. It is mostly in the 1s, but it will allow for the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes across this region. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. And before I end today's video, I do want to touch on the fact that I will not be covering lapse rates or storm relative helicity anymore, as it's not really needed with energy helicity index. Energy helicity index will be taking the place of storm relative helicity, and overall lapse rates are just really not that needed in a daily forecast video, so I will be dropping lapse rates and replacing storm relative helicity with energy helicity index. Hello everyone, Project Gladiator here. Before I end today's forecast, I did forget to mention in today's video that I will be dropping bulk shear as well, as it is typically going to be contaminated a lot with storm relative helicity and our speed shear combined, so it isn't really reliable to look at compared to speed shear and directional shear. So I will be dropping bulk shear as well, and you get an idea of our hail potential from our 500 millibars in our elongated photographs. So if you live in any of the areas I covered for severe weather for today, please stay weather alert for the time being, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.